Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 201 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. Breaking down UCF's blowout of the Owls in Boca. Our look at 40 years of UCF football continues, and what's in your cargo shorts? That's not my question. That is an Ask Knightline question. But first,
all right, Florida Atlantic may have burned a fake nitro on Friday night, but 24 hours later, the Owls were torched by UCF. The Knights moved to 2-0 on the young season. Final from Boca Raton, 48 UCF, FAU 14. It was definitely a beatdown in Boca.
is that your phrase?
That was the one that I used last night. Some people that follow me on Twitter may have seen that I don't really like this burning of effigies type thing, and I was not impressed by that, and I thought that it was really low class. I know that they do that every year. For 12 years they've been doing it, blah, blah, blah. It's still low class, personally.
So UCF football on its Twitter posted, burned it down in Boca with the final score. And our man Otis Anderson on his Twitter at Gumby_football talking about the win. That was for UCF Nitro. We got your back.
Absolutely. Bad juju right there.
I will say
them to do that.
They constructed a mighty fine-looking Nitro.
It was nice. It was. I just feel that I don't think that has any place in college football or sports in general. That's kind of a weird thing, burning of effigies. So, I mean, it's been going on for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, who knows. But still, it's just a thing that I just don't think it belongs in college football or any other sport. So that's just my opinion. I'm entitled to it just like everybody else is entitled to theirs. Speaking of opinions, what were your opinions on the game?
I'm a bit surprised by the latest quarterback moves.
I wasn't. I've been telling you
just because.
How long have I been telling you all that he was going to start?
I gotcha.
I said, this is it. I mean, I said that he was going to start at some point during the season. Took one game to do it.
So we're in different shoes on this part, though. So I'm an alum. I'm a fan. I want Coach Heupel to do whatever he has to do to go 1-0 every week, ethically and legally and all that good stuff, right? But then I go to these media availabilities where he talks all week about rolling out two quarterbacks.
Right.
And I will only say, from that perspective, feel a little played by him. So I'm putting on both hats.
Right.
Do what you got to do, Coach, to get the win.
Right.
So if you got to fool me asking you questions, I'm fine with it. But I don't like being a pawn in that either.
Right.
And I know that that's part of the gamesmanship of coaches, and he goes into coach speak. But I feel a little played by it on that side, and I feel like those pressers are a little bit a waste of time because it doesn't mean that what he says is going to Thursday.
So supposedly this went down on Thursday.
Well, we had media availability with Coach on Thursday, and he was, he gets asked all the time about the quarterbacks,
he never said that Wimbush was starting.
No.
He never said that he wasn't.
No, and I guess, I mean, I'd have to go back and listen to what he said.
I remember
I guess technically he played two quarterbacks, too. So he played quadri.
He said something would somebody asked him, is the same thing going to happen this week? Yeah, something like that. And then, I mean, I can find it at some point if we have to. Well, I think I posted that thing on Spreaker, actually. So if you want to go back and listen to what he said on Thursday, I posted it on Spreaker under the what's the thing called that we have on there?
Scrum.
Yeah, inside the scrum or whatever, something like that.
But so you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
That you're asking him questions,
I do.
and he certainly doesn't have to answer anything anyway, to our satisfaction.
Right.
But
and he definitely didn't answer anything about it last night.
No, everybody tried.
He did say this though, so let's get into this real quick. Here's his opening statement after the game last night.
Proud of the way you guys played for 4 quarters, all 3 phases of the game. I thought defensively, the defensive line was, changed the game the entire night. Played on the other side of the line of scrimmage, did a fantastic job. Special teams were solid all night, and obviously the one kickoff and then the field goal that we'd like to hit. But I thought our coverage units improved from week 1 offensively. Thought we had a really good night running the football. They changed a little bit throughout the course of the ball game. I thought our guys up front and tight ends adjusted really, really well. I thought Coach Levy and offensive staff did a fantastic job as well. Tonight obviously Dylan got the start. Brandon wasn't 100% at the end of the day, and so that's why we made the move that we did. Dylan found out late on Thursday that he was going to ultimately be the guy.
He said late on Thursday. Your thing was early on Thursday.
Yes, this is true. Do you like the sound? Do you like the audio?
Well,
do you like the echoing in the room?
I was going to comment on that. I think that you should explain to everyone why that area sounded like that. You get in such weird spots anyway during, sometimes in the big stadiums they're in a tunnel. Sometimes, there's trucks backing up. This one was unique. The whole situation down there was unique for everybody, I believe. But tell that story real quick.
I certainly did not have the negative experiences that a lot of our fans did, and you can talk more about that part of it. But the room we were in for the post-game media session turns out to be the room that 5 hours earlier I picked up the credential from. That's just their ticket office. It's just a ticket window.
With the window and everything.
A window. And so the sound bounced all over, and
you should have stood out the window and put your phone under the thing and ask a question. That would have been awesome.
I just had to laugh because there were some issues with having the right personnel in place. I would say I'm being generous with FAU. At one point, Coach Heupel's talking, and I believe it was Coach Heupel at that point, and Adrian Killens, I see him out of the corner of my eye, open the door, and then he quickly closes the door because he realizes somebody's at the podium, well, the makeshift podium.
Right.
It was a little echoey in there.
Well, I will tell you that my experience at FAU was one of the most horrible experiences from the moment that I stepped on campus, drove on campus. I drove down there. I was there by 1 o'clock. I wanted to get there early so I could get a good parking spot.
That's 6 hours ahead of schedule.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of beer drinking to go on during that time.
No, but you should have had relative ease.
Well, I should have. I should have. So number one, finding this green parking lot was extremely difficult because all the signs were backwards. I guess I came in from the wrong side or whatever because they didn't have two-sided signs with these, you could only see the signs if you were coming from the other direction, I guess. So I'm going down. I can't find, I pull over and ask a cop at one point that's directing traffic. Yeah, you're going the right way. Okay, well, I didn't ever see a green parking, sign until I turned around, did a U-turn and came back the other way. Then I had my parking pass because I bought it on Ticketmaster, prepaid parking, and I had it on my phone, on the little wallet thing on an iPhone, and I showed that to the parking people. Is this a green lot? Can I use this? And they're like, I don't know what this is, in very bad broken English, by the way. Wait a second, I have to call this other person, to come over, and she's like, we can't take those.
You couldn't accept the digital parking pass.
Yeah, because they didn't know how to do it. They could have just looked at it. Yeah, it's a parking pass. No, this is a ticket for inside the stadium. I'm like, no, it says parking on it.
They've had games here before, by the way.
Yeah.
This is not a brand new stadium.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm like, can I pay you, $20 beeping dollars and just be done with this? Because it was a cash lot as well. So I gave her the freaking $20 and, parked my car. I got a pretty decent parking spot. And then I had to walk all the way over to the RV lot, which was by the airport. You could smell jet fuel from the dang thing. And then going into the stadium, we had probably 3,000 of our closest friends in the line with us, and the line was literally, I usually use another phrase to explain how close we were together, but I mean we were as close as I would ever want to be with anybody with my clothes on. That would be the easiest way to explain it. It was tight. I mean it was crazy.
You've painted a picture.
It was bad. And it was not moving. They had it was like the airport with one TSA agent. Imagine that.
Yeah.
They had everybody going through metal detectors where you had to take everything out of your pockets. I've heard they weren't letting people take suntan, or not suntan, but sunscreen. They were taking people's sunscreen away from them and all this other stuff. It literally took, luckily I was able to get in. I didn't see the kickoff, but I saw the first touchdown. I ran after I got through the security thing, and I ran up to my seat.
So the good
literally.
thing is you got some exercise to burn off beer.
Oh, man. It was horrible. It was hot. It was sweaty. I mean, it was ridiculous, these lines. Lots of people have posted pictures. I bought a bottle of water, because it was hot after being in that line. The water was warm. Other people said they couldn't buy water. They ran out of food.
Did they advertise cold water, though? They did. Now, come on.
They pulled it out of an ice thing, but Lord have mercy. And this was in the first quarter, the water was already warm.
So how does this compare to your St. Pete Bowl experience at Tropicana?
Man, I would go back to that place anytime. I'm never going back to FAU, ever. Ever. I'm not doing it unless I know for a fact that they have changed what they're doing down there. I mean, it was bad. It was horrible. I almost got into a fight, believe it or not. And I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy.
I believe this, actually.
I'm a nice guy. If I would have been able to throw a punch.
With the parking person?
No.
With the water person?
This was an FAU fan. Actually, 2 FAU fans. If I would have been able to throw the punch, if there was room for me to move my arm to throw the punch, I would have thrown the punch. I would have.
A different game day experience.
And there would have been no cops around to do anything about it. So...
No, there wasn't a lot of...
Well, they were all outside, but they weren't anywhere near the gate. So I saw people jumping over gates, jumping over the rails to get into the stadium. I saw a guy handing out beer out of a 12-pack box in the stadium. All kinds of stuff. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous.
So Danny White's brother, Brian, is athletic director down at FAU, has released a statement Sunday. Long statement, doesn't say a lot, but as a result, in addition to continuing to encourage fans to arrive early, we will be meticulously evaluating all aspects of our game day experience in order to ensure that we are doing everything we can to provide a positive fan experience.
We were not ready for Night Nation, is what he should have said.
Well, they average about 15,000 or so.
And we had 15,000 there. It was at least half. We had at least, and then they're like, oh, it's sold out. It's sold out. No, it was not. If it was sold out, half of the people didn't show up because they couldn't get in.
They said it was a program record.
I'm sure it was because UCF fans were there. I said this earlier in the week on Twitter to somebody. Oh, well, the tickets are sold, blah, blah, blah. You can't get any more tickets. Yeah, I said because Night Nation bought them all. So it was a great showing, by the way, Night Nation. It was awesome. I mean, there were lots out there where people were tailgating that it was nothing but a sea of black and gold. I mean, it was awesome. I went around. Travis bought these little electric scooter things, and they're absolutely awesome. And so we can, ride around, and we rode around a couple times. I went to meet Ben and UCF Mike from Sons of UCF, and that parking lot that they were in was totally black and gold. There was hardly any FAU people out there at all.
See, this is why I think games with FAU, your experience, everyone's experience notwithstanding, and FIU are good for the fan base.
Oh, they are. They're great.
A lot of Central Florida fans, fans from across the state, and especially so many alums and fans in South Florida. So many students hail from South Florida, real South Florida.
They're great.
That it's great for the fan base to go to, and we travel well.
Oh, absolutely. I was extremely impressed by everybody. Josh Heupel had something to say about that. Somebody asked him. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
Fantastic. I don't know what percent it was, but it felt like about half of it. And it was awesome, just driving over from the hotel on the bus, being able to see all the UCF flags, all the license plates. Fans were honking their horns and high-fiving us or giving us a thumbs up as we were driving by them. It was a great atmosphere, great to see. Our fan base come out. Some from up in the middle of the state, a bunch of fans from down here get an opportunity for it to be a home game to come see us.
All right. Well, so the team and the coaches and everybody notice when Night Nation shows up, and man, again, it was absolutely awesome the amount of people that were there. Once I got into the stadium, all that, I had a great time.
Watching the running backs.
Oh man,
rush for 5 touchdowns,
torching them,
and
literally
dominating. First turnover on defense of the season. Got to give Randy Shannon and the defense credit. We haven't needed any second half Randy halftime adjustments. They've been really flying around.
The refs were on FAU's team as well at one point there. That call, that horrible call, the pass interference call on Clark. Absolutely horrible call. In fact, his dad sent me a replay of it from his TV or whatever, a clip that he made, and you can see Neville Clark looking back. I mean, he's doing everything that he should have done, but they called pass interference on that. That was the worst call of the entire game. I want to go back, though, to Josh Heupel talking about Dylan Gabriel because, it's a big deal when
it is a big deal.
Freshman quarterback, all of a sudden the second game of the year, comes out and starts the game. So let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say about Dylan Gabriel.
Did some things really well. The first couple of plays, obviously the big touchdown pass, thought he was accurate with the football. They changed their coverage a little bit from what we had anticipated during the course of the ball game. Took a couple shots in the pocket. I thought he was steady throughout it. Had a great look in his eye and ultimately made enough plays to give us some balance and allow us to go win a football game. He was decisive in week one. I thought he was decisive here tonight too. Had pressure on him. In week one he didn't get hit at all. He took some shots tonight. I thought he was decisive. He was accurate. There's some things that we miscommunicated or time was a little bit off. He was getting pressure and having to let go of it a little bit early. Those are all things that he'll see on tape that we can correct. And without me getting into the tape too, I don't know if there's a soft spot in the pocket that he's got to press up into. But week two, it's a win. We're going to enjoy it. Go back home tomorrow, watch it, and get a whole lot better, and get ready for a really good team coming in to bounce us.
Josh Heupel was talking really fast there. I mean, he was excited. Very different from the week before after Brandon Moore got hurt. Very different.
Certainly the team didn't get to quite celebrate that because of Brandon's injury last week. So there wasn't that enthusiasm post-game that you might expect after a win.
I think that Tay Gowan, who played over there quite a bit, did a very good job. I mean, he got that interception. I think he held down that spot. I'm impressed with our defense in general. Like I said before, we were so worried about the defensive line.
Well, we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know. It was an unknown.
And in fairness, we still don't fully know because of the quality of the opponent.
And when we talked to Kyle Israel later, I said something about this exact thing in there. I'm kind of repeating myself, but you haven't heard that yet. So we will learn a lot more next week. But I have
next 2 weeks
much better feeling going into those with their performance so far. And I really love the way that they used Antoine Collier in this game. Rushing the quarterback a couple times, got one sack. In the very next play, almost got another. Very good job. I'm very excited about the combination of safeties back there. That's those guys are awesome with Grant and him back there. Grant really hasn't showed himself, hasn't done the exciting things that he has in the past yet.
Hasn't needed to.
Antoine Collier is new back there. Hadn't really started there, so I'm very excited about that. And I also love when Antoine Collier and Neville Clark are on the same side of the field. That is like a complete shutdown over there. I'm probably most excited about the way that Antoine Collier is playing. I'll just say that. Was very impressed with the way he was playing. So.
Back to Dillon, 7 of 19, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns. Saw him run a little bit more.
Yeah.
4 carries, 21 yards, and the rushing touchdown.
Yep.
So you got to see that. No wide receiver. I mean, Jacob Harris with a great, he's wide open.
Right.
A great catch, but a little chemistry
2
between
weeks
the
in
two
a
of them.
row for him. Yeah.
For
those two.
They seem to like that combination. But just 7 completions. At moments, he had those flashes and also moments where he looked like a young freshman quarterback.
Yeah. The big story here, though, besides that, is what our running backs were able to do. I mean, the rushing 325 yards, net yards 312, 5 touchdowns, including the one with Dylan Gabriel rushing, but 4 different running backs, 4 touchdowns. McCray, 14 carries for 96 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest was 20. Bentavious Thompson, which I'm also extremely excited about, and I can't wait to see more of him. 7 carries for 91 yards, and he had a 13-yard average in those 7 carries. Busting that one big one off that got called back, I believe. It would have been a touchdown. But then he got one after that. Otis Anderson, 6 carries for 75 yards. Adrian Killens, 9 carries for 37 yards. Otis Anderson also big numbers on the average for those 6. He ran for 12.5.
Is there a category there for Jukes that knocked some ankles on the Florida Atlantic? Why did he move?
That will be a highlight for a long time, I believe.
Probably for him. It'll be in his personal highlight reel. It's
he has. I love that. He has the little step that was when. I don't know if you remember, but remember all the way back when we were talking about him coming, and we were talking to him. You'll have to go back in the archives and listen to the episode. And I said to him, I asked him about, is he the same kind of running back that Adrian Killens is? And he was very confident, saying, that he was. I don't know if he said that he was better, but he said it was going to be a heck of a 1-2 punch or whatever. He has something that maybe the others don't have. He is very shifty and just it's that little. I've talked about it a bunch of times during the time that we've been doing this show. That little stutter or whatever step,
a little move,
a little move with your head and your feet that running backs have, and he has it, and it's really exciting. That dude dove into air because. He basically did that little shake, and he was gone.
That touchdown, his 9th career rushing score and 16th overall touchdown.
You would think that he would have more than 9. It just seems like he does. Here's what Josh Heupel had to say on the running backs.
Did a great job. Otis, in the first half, electric play. AK was dynamic all night. Greg was steady. Bentavious gets in there and rips off a bunch of big runs too, and proud of that group. And they cheer for one another, and done a great job of understanding what we're doing against the looks that we're seeing and getting to the right spot.
All right. Well, I love our group of running backs. I mean, man, is that a good thing to have going into a football season?
UCF has scored 30 or more points 28 straight games, nation's longest such streak, longest streak of the AP era, which began in 1936.
Wow.
So, and look to continue that this coming weekend against Stanford. UCF has scored in 35 straight quarters. I mean, there's just so many superlatives. Is that the right word?
Superlatives. Yeah.
Record road game winning streak is now 10. How about this one? UCF scored on the ground and through the air 28 straight games doing so. That leads the nation. Oklahoma has done it 16 times.
Wow.
So they trail UCF by 12 a full season, basically,
wow.
in achieving that.
It's crazy.
And, by the way, the Knights are 14-1 under Josh Heupel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that people are getting a little bit tired of wondering who the quarterback is going to be, the starting quarterback.
You think?
I saw, maybe it's an Ask Knightline, somebody says something like that. Josh Heupel was asked, who's the starting quarterback for Stanford? Here's what he had to say.
We'll get into the beginning next week and we'll evaluate. I said at the beginning of the year, strength of any position can never be one guy. I think our program and our fan base has probably learned the lesson too that even if that's quarterback position, you got to continue to grow it and all the guys in there. Proud of what the group's done up until this point. We got a big test for us next week and the group's going to have to play really well.
And he said nothing about him, and he would not divulge at all what the injury was or anything like that, or injury or issue or whatever it is with Brandon Wimbush. So I know that people tried to get it out of him, but obviously he wouldn't say that, and I don't blame him.
He's pretty good about deflecting.
He is. He's very good at deflecting. So let's go back to the defense a little bit and the pass rush. You ask him actually this question.
You stepped up your pass rush week to week too.
And I those guys got a game ball just because I thought they changed the line of scrimmage. They were harassing the quarterback all night long. They were relentless. He broke contain a couple times. We got to make sure that we keep him in the pocket. But when they did, we had guys chasing him, shadowing his hand, making it tough for him all night long.
They did a great job.
I thought he was starting off a little grumpy with me there.
Well, I think that's just the way. Yeah, I think that's the way that he
processing
does.
the question.
I like him. I think that he answers things, not the greatest sometimes, and does throw quite the smoke screen. But overall, he's been pretty good with people, I believe. Another thing that you mentioned to him was the offensive team holding onto the ball and not giving a lot of turnovers. Turnovers.
On offense, you're protecting the ball pretty well through 2 games.
Yeah, we have. We talked about that in the locker room. I got to continue to find ways to create more turnovers. Got to live on the right side of it. We've taken care of it up until this point. Critical as we move through this season that we win the turnover battle. It's something that we stress in all 3 phases. Defense does a turnover circuit every day, and offensively we do one as well. And trying to protect the football. Our kids understand how important that is to us, and we got to continue to take pride in that.
Very important, right? You don't turn the ball over. You're going to win that turnover battle. Again, the quality of the opponent, but that is critical this week against Stanford is holding on to the ball. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's, playing different quarterbacks and all that stuff, you start to worry about that a little bit. One guy may be a better protector of the ball than others. The running backs did a good job of holding on to the ball as well, obviously, so I'm happy with that. Let's hear from Dillon Gabriel on his first start and what that was like.
Felt great, I think. Coming out, nothing really changed. It was just getting another snap, just getting the first snap. So, didn't really take it to heart. Just came out there and tried to be the best team I could. Didn't feel it was my best. Had to adjust early. I didn't adjust as quick as I like, but the main thing is we won 1-0, and that's all that matters.
Wait, 1-0, and that's all that matters.
They are so disciplined about staying on message, the players.
They are.
Yeah.
That's good, though. It's good. I mean, obviously, they've been talked to and about it and all that stuff, and that's a hard thing to do as a high school freshman, to come out there and talk to the media. They get better and better, obviously, as they go, but yeah, that's hard, especially, hey, you just started for the first time. How do you feel? At that point anyway, the adrenaline's not out of you and all that. So you could come out there and say, something dumb or whatever, and they do a really good job of not doing that.
They do. And it's, I don't think there's gotcha in it, but the members of the media are not trying to trip them up, but they're trying to get them off message. They're trying to get a little more candid response, because we're used to the coach and player speak under the Heupel era at this point, but they do a good job of staying on message.
And you tried, actually. Here's one right here. Dillon Gabriel, just listen to it.
Have you done what it takes to earn the next start?
Like I said, we're going to evaluate it. Coach is going to evaluate it. We'll see what happens. I'm just going to be the best team that I can. And if my name's called, I'll be ready.
And boy, did he stay on message.
Tried.
I know. It's all good. It's great. I love it.
You can't grill them,
No, but I love it when you ask questions like that. I mean, just going even back to the question you ask Brandon Wimbush during during camp there. You've been a little off on your passes.
Why is that? Well, and I don't know if you have this one, but he talked about the quarterbacks on the sideline giving him input and advice.
I heard it. I did not use that one just because I was trying to keep it kind of.
But
short,
I asked him, I go, well, what did Brandon Wimbush say to you?
Yeah.
And is it too many people? There's a lot of quarterbacks on the sideline.
Yeah.
So this
there is.
game, there was Brandon Wimbush, Quadri Jones, Hayden Kingston, Darryl Mack, and KZ.
And KZ was on the sideline.
I believe he was on the sideline. By the way, as we record, Darryl Mack has posted a photo of him on the field at FAU on his Instagram. And the caption reads, "It's going to take more than some pressure to fold me. # be back too soon."
Okay. All right.
Just
I
to
don't know what
stir
that
the
means,
pot a
but
little
yeah.
bit more on this quarterback situation.
Too soon.
Be back too soon is the
Okay.
hashtag.
All right. Well,
Wonder what he means.
oh boy. There could be even more quarterback controversy happening here soon.
You think it's controversy? I mean,
don't know
Kyle
if it's
shied away
controversy.
from this last
Yeah.
week when I asked it. It's certainly
It's intriguing.
curious.
It's intriguing.
It's interesting.
Quarterback intrigue. How about that?
Dun dun.
All right. I got two more clips here real quick. Landon Woodson on how FAU lined up. I thought this was interesting. And I mean, I've played college football and I know how this works, but this was a big telling moment about how they knew when FAU was going to pass the ball.
There's just a certain way that they line up that we know if they're passing throwing the ball, and they were pretty much the same as what was on film, so it was pretty easy.
So they watched him on film, and they did the exact same thing every time, supposedly. So, I mean, you give it away on film, and it's there, and they did a great job. I love that these guys do a good job studying film, obviously. There's a lot of that going on, so that's very good. Eric Mitchell was another guy that had a good game, and I liked this quote because he was talking about practicing how you play.
Just Coach Shannon preaching in the practice. I mean, Coach Shannon always say you practice how you play. So in practice, D-line went out there hard, linebackers went out there hard, secondary went out there, so it carried over to the game.
He talks really fast, so it's kind of hard to understand what he was saying there, and it was a short clip. But basically, you practice how you play, and we don't hear them talk a lot about what Randy Shannon says to them. So that was kind of a little
maybe
bit of
a new line of questioning that we
a little bit of insight there.
see if
So
we can get that into questions in the weeks ahead.
yeah, so that's it for the clips. Hopefully y'all enjoyed some of those. Hopefully it was, stuff that you hadn't heard in that context.
In that context, I like that. So the polls up one spot in the coaches poll to 16, up one spot in the writers poll to 17. They were 17. Remember, they dropped them a notch.
Yeah, 16 in the coaches poll and the AP poll 17. So I think we probably should have moved up a step or two higher than that, personally.
Well, you should look at that because that's one of the Ask Knightline questions.
I know.
Yeah. That's coming up. ESPN out Sunday with its bowl projections.
Okay.
You're not going to like this.
Oh, God.
One of their esteemed personnel projects Frisco Bowl, UCF versus Army, though I think that matchup is intriguing.
Yeah, not the Frisco
and
Bowl, though.
Another of their correspondents predicts UCF versus Buffalo, Danny White's old stomping grounds, in the Boca Raton
Oh,
Bowl.
my God. I'm definitely not going to that.
And I trotted out on Twitter at UCF_Knightline the return of Libby's favorite question, and I've added a third category. The question reads, after 2 games, which is the best UCF football team? The 2017 Knights, who were 2-0, the 2018 Knights, or the 2019 Knights? How do you think that turned out? She hates that poll, by the way.
Yeah, well,
But
I mean...
I should have trotted it out last week. I forgot.
There was a little bit more... In those other teams that you're talking about, there was a little bit more of knowing what was going on at this point in the season. especially with quarterbacks and stuff like that. Both of those were firmly held down by Mackenzie Milton.
So how do you think the vote turned out? Very unscientific. I just posted it for a couple hours
I would
so we
say
could talk about it.
probably the 17 team.
60% of the 2017, 28% the 2019 Knights,
Really?
12% the 2018 Knights.
Wow.
So the little
Okay.
contrast with what you're saying there, because
It's interesting.
you had Mackenzie Milton,
Yeah,
a
interesting.
Heisman contender 1 year ago, off to the 2-0
Well, I
start.
mean, I would think that we would be better than last year, but not in the. I mean, the quarterback thing is still a little weird, so I don't know about that.
Unscientific. Just posted it for a couple of hours, but certainly 2017 would have won no matter how many hours that poll had been posted.
Alrighty.
So, UCF Stanford 3:30. Stanford, good job laying an egg with USC Saturday
they
night.
blew it.
Could have been a great top 25 matchup.
Blew it.
I'm hoping I know for fans this won't be great, but very warm and very humid. And while watching that broadcast, you were driving back, so you didn't get to hear it, but one of the commentators said that USC was really wearing Stanford down with its speed. And I just thought, well, that's UCF.
Well, that should be fairly easy then. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm looking forward to that game. I've been looking forward to that game. I'm not a fan of the 3:30 games,
It should
but
be hot,
it'll be
right?
on national television. So either ESPN or ABC, probably.
I think the announcement was ESPN.
Oh, okay.
Let me double check
I
that.
bet it's probably ESPN now instead of ABC because
they laid an egg.
Yeah, that doesn't ever help anything.
I'll look that up while you continue on.
All right. Well, we need to talk about post-game live, I guess. I have not gotten there yet. This has become a very interesting situation.
Things are happening.
Things are happening behind the scenes that have not allowed us really to do this yet.
Stymieing you.
Yes. I can't get into everything that's been going on, but there's issues.
Is there any cease and desists yet?
Not quite.
Okay.
Very close to it, though. But I can't talk about that. Very close to it.
I didn't say anything.
There are issues. And it doesn't necessarily involve us, me personally, but there are issues. So we're just trying to figure this out. Give me time. I know I wanted to have this all taken care of by the time the season started. And I apologize that it's not, but I don't want to do this stuff until it's done correctly and can be done correctly, technically, and everything else. So that's why I haven't done it yet. And we will do it as soon as we possibly can. That's all I can really say. Yes, at some point it will be on sports radio, ESPN, Orlando, 580. Yes, it will be call-in at some point. Yes, we will be doing them at Oviedo Brewing Company for our watch parties and all that. We have to work out these details. And it's been kind of slow going, but there are many, many pieces involved in this. I want to do this on the radio to have more listener ability. That's the whole thing with the radio. I know that you all would listen to it anyway if it wasn't on the radio, but I want those people that don't do podcasts or, don't know about us to be able to stumble upon us on the radio. That's the great thing about radio. You can push a button or get in your car or be somewhere and it's just randomly playing. That's the best part about radio. So, we're obviously still a podcast. We're always going to be a podcast, but there will be radio involved coming up. But we will still get stuff out for our podcast listeners, obviously. That's not going anywhere. But there will be radio involved here soon. But I want to do it right. I want it to be this kind of the same thing that we do here, and I'm fighting for that and all that. So many moving pieces, though. There are lots of people involved and everything else. So it will happen at some point.
That's a little Coach Heupel-like in that you didn't really say a whole lot there.
I try. I'm trying to be honest with everybody because people have been very loyal and called and all that stuff. And And I feel bad about all this. I really do. I
A little bit beyond your control.
It's way beyond my control right now. So I feel just as bad about it as everybody else does. I mean, I'm embarrassed, honestly, because it's not the way that I normally do things. I normally say that I'm going to do something and I do it, but when there's all this involved, it's a lot harder to do that. So when the time is right, Post Game Live will come back, hopefully during this season, hopefully soon during this season, and we'll get it rolling good, and everybody will enjoy it. Anyway.
You know what's easier to talk about?
Socks. I forgot last week. So it wasn't that easy. We did a giveaway on Twitter with Rock'em Socks. They're UCF guys. They make these all kinds of really cool socks. You have a pair, I have a pair. We gave away 5 sets, I believe, of 5, I think, or 5 sets of socks anyway.
10 socks?
I'm not sure if it was
5
10
people?
or 5 packs. I'm not sure. But
Did
anyway,
10 people get 1 sock each? No,
maybe.
that did not happen.
No, 5 people got socks. So I just want to say thank you to Rock'em Socks for doing that with us. And if you have a chance to check out them on their website, which I'm kind of ill-prepared here and I don't have their website right in front of me. I believe it's rockemsocks.com, but I don't know.
You will look that up. You mentioned
I'm bad.
Post-game. You remember Chris from Canada,
Yeah.
former UCF player?
Yeah.
One of these came in on the celebration of episode 200. Chris wrote us at UCF Knights Nation NATN. Congrats on the 200 guys. Can't say enough about the great work you guys do. I still remember back in the early days when I first found you guys and was one of the few callers in on the live shows. And that's true because the word hadn't gotten out yet that we were doing those live shows. So glad to see how far you and UCF football have come. So
Awesome.
Thank you, Chris, for that. And he's right. He was he was diehard. He called in.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And certainly for all the fans that aren't in Central Florida or can't make games, I was talking via text with Adam of the Sons of UCF, and whose travel plans scuttled his ability to go to Boca because of work at the last moment. But you take for granted that you can go to home games when you live in the Sunshine State, and if you're alums or fans across the country or in Canada or anywhere in the world, you don't get to do that quite as often. So we're glad we can connect people.
Yeah, and
Nation.
we'll be doing that more when we get Post Game Live back online. Anyway, Rock'em Socks. It is rockemsocks.com. Rock, M-E-M, socks.com. And they have all kinds of stuff. They have Halloween socks going on right now. They have theme park socks. They have dog socks. They have WWE socks. They have superhero socks. They have socks for every NCAA team, it looks like, that'll allow them to do it.
How's your sock game?
Mine's not exciting. I mean, I have the UCF socks now, so
Are those the most exciting pair of socks you have?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you have? Black, brown, navy? This is the whole.
I'm a black, the gold toe. I'm a black gold toe kind of guy.
So no flare, no color.
Nothing, no, just black. And I wear dress shoes all the time, but I still wear the regular old like athletic socks with my dress shoes, which people do.
Are you going to wear your Rock'em socks to work?
I may at some point.
Maybe on.
I think my wife is probably going to wear them.
Maybe on Fridays, because Flags Up Fridays, home game.
They've got a really cool Andre the Giant one here on their website. They've got chicken sandwich socks. They've got
sandwich.
Space Ranger, Sheriff, Alien Autopsy socks. They've got every kind of sock that you could ever imagine. So go to Rock'em Socks and, I don't know, tell them Knightline sent you and see what they have to say about that. So anyway, thank you, Rock'em Socks, and we look forward to, doing more, contests or something. It's really cool. I mean, these are unbelievable. Did you see these?
I'm familiar with them, yeah.
I mean, they are so
Halloween
colorful.
socks.
Halloween, man, they have all kinds of stuff. Unbelievable. Candy Monster, I like that one. Anyway, go check them out.
All right, from socks to putting your best foot forward, we're talking with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel next.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
Let's talk about UCF's win over Florida Atlantic with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel. Kyle, before we get into this game, I got to give you kudos on your Twitter photo. Professional photo or what there?
No, I think that was a selfie, to be honest with you.
You clean up pretty good. That's at KIsrael07 on Twitter. And I'll take you back. It says now 24 hours when you wrote, "We've entered a new era." What do you mean?
Well, I thought that last night was kind of the step in a new direction of what the future of UCF football looks like, really at the quarterback position. I know that there's obviously still some things to be figured out this year and obviously another huge question mark for next year, but I really kind of felt like seeing Dylan starting that game, goes out, hits a big pass for a touchdown on that one of those first attempts. It just kind of felt like we were seeing what the future had to offer to us. Again, I'm not saying that it's going to be, exactly Dylan Gabriel here for the next 4 years, but that's what it felt like to me at the moment.
Yeah, I completely understand you there. I was anticipating this at some point. I really wasn't anticipating it this quickly, but he made his first start. I had said that I thought this was going to happen at some point during the year, and it did. He kind of looked like a freshman out there at times, though, but at times he didn't.
No, there were plays that Dylan was extremely on target with, the big plays down the field. I like to see him, reading the defenses and finding the open receiver. I think obviously those were great play designs by Heupel and the offensive staff. Guys really running wide open. Dylan just had to hit them. But he was able to hit them and hit them on the mark, and sometimes those wide open throws are the hardest ones to make. You did see some incomplete passes, but we had so many big chunk plays that you never really felt like Dylan was in a scenario where, he really played outside of himself. We had the lead. He seems very poised and composed out there and comfortable. I think that we want to be probably more consistent in the passing game without a doubt. But listen, for being his first start of his career, the expectation levels are as high at UCF as they've ever been, especially at the quarterback position. There's a lot of pressure, and I think Dylan handled it, very well. I think that he'd want him to have some of those short intermediate passes back. However, what have we said all year? Get the ball to the guys around the quarterback, and those guys are the ones that make the plays, and that's what happened yesterday.
Dylan's final stat line through the air, 7 of 19, 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. I want to throw you one of our Ask Knightline questions at Breeze Running D1, saying were most of Dylan's incompletions due to, and he lists a couple of things here, not being in sync, play calls, always going for the home run, FAU secondary, something else. What do you think the reason for the incompletions?
Well, I think there were a couple that were, designed screen passes out to the sideline where FAU did a good job of kind of, breaking those up and or jumbling up the group of receivers out there. I think some of it is just FAU made some plays on the ball, and then I think he just missed some throws. And I think that's pretty common. You think back to McKenzie as a true freshman. There were people that tried yelling for McKenzie to be benched. And so I think that you have to understand that with the true freshman, as good as he has the potential to be, there's going to be some inconsistencies. But, I mean, he threw, I think, 2 or 3 touchdowns. He had another rushing touchdown, threw 2 touchdowns, had another rushing. So, hey, we go on the road, we beat the crap out of an in-state team, and we did it with a true freshman at quarterback. Got to feel pretty good about it.
What did you think about when he ran? I mean, he didn't get to run very often, but, and avoiding being sacked a couple of times and stuff like that.
I think that he's going to be a guy that can be elusive and can get us first downs with his legs, can move the chains. But, I think I tweeted it last night. I don't think that he's going to show the flash that maybe we've seen out of McKenzie. I think McKenzie is very dynamic. I think that Dylan can definitely get on the run and still deliver the football. But some of the stuff McKenzie was able to do down the field with his legs and his vision, maybe Dylan's going to be able to do that, but I don't think he necessarily has the same speed or elusiveness or quote-unquote it factor maybe that McKenzie does, but it's still very, very early. So I just don't think, right now he's going to be the same as what we saw from McKenzie, let's say, this time last year.
Let's do a little football 101. Talk about reading defenses, what it means from the quarterback's perspective and what you're seeing from Dylan in reading the defense.
Well, our offense really isolates and pushes the quarterback in a certain direction, pre-snap and post-snap. It's not – most of these reads aren't full-field reads. So a lot of the time you see Dylan catch the ball, get his feet set right there, not taking a big drop, and he's surveying the field. Now, I think last night, even on the first one to Harris, he had to read how that safety was playing the other receiver. He read the safety take the inside receiver, and he delivered it outside with a beautiful pass. So he had to make that read. Obviously, Adrian was wide open on that touchdown reception, but Dylan made his progression, and you could see him find his way out to Adrian, which just was wide open. It's a bit different. If I could change the perspective a little bit, for example, when myself or Stephen Moffitt were playing for Coach O'Leary, we were under center or in shotgun under pass plays, and we were reading 3 to 4 route progressions based off a front and then a safety coverage that we were seeing at the line of scrimmage while pushing the protection to the strength of the defense. So we had a whole bunch of decisions to make at the line of scrimmage, a pretty big play call in the huddle verbally, and then reading multiple depths of a defense. These offenses, we're seeing the cards from the sideline, it's coming to the field, and they're making it much easier for somebody to be successful at a younger age. And I think that's why, even though Dylan is talented, even though Dariel Mack is talented, that's why those guys, had success at the end of last year, and we've seen Dylan be successful, and Brandon, to some extent last week, be successful, because this offense allows these quarterbacks to make much, much quicker decisions.
Well, Heupel wound up saying that Brandon Wimbush was hurt in some way or was not 100%. Did not go into any detail, obviously. I don't know where we stand still. We're kind of, it's still, I think it's still a competition in a way. And somebody asked him if he was going to continue going with the multiple quarterback thing, and he didn't say that he wasn't, So, there's still a possibility that Dylan Gabriel could redshirt. I don't think he's the starter for good. I don't know, but, it has to be difficult on these guys, even though they're all saying the same thing. Like, we just want to, do the best for our team, and, it doesn't matter what the snap count, who takes the first snap, all that stuff. Do you believe that? Especially about it doesn't matter who takes the first snap?
I think all those guys want to play. Every single one. I'm not trying to be cliche. I think, they'd all want to find their way on the field, but it was interesting to see, the nod go to Dylan. I think that, to be frank, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I think there's a little bit something more to what's going on potentially with Brandon Wimbush. I have not been told what that may be or what that is, but I was a little bit surprised that we did end up seeing Dylan as a starter yesterday. Again, this redshirt rule leaves the possibilities wide open. If we didn't have that, I'd say you might as well go with Dylan from here on forward if he's playing pretty well, and then see how DJ Mack comes back into the fold. But with this redshirt rule, I think that's a good positive thing for DJ Mack because it potentially allows him to, maybe beat out Dylan in a week or 2 or 3, or at least a week or 2. I think there's still a lot of question marks, Andrew. I think that my gut feeling is that we'll see Dylan Gabriel as the starting quarterback this Saturday versus Stanford. That's just my own personal opinion. But I think there's going to be a lot more questions maybe throughout the course of the week to how this unfolded.
Which Coach Heupel will not be giving many answers to if you go by past here. Looking at
you guys were searching for it last night, but he wasn't giving it.
Yeah, no, he wasn't going there. 20 passes on the night for UCF. However, 47 carries, 325 yards, or 312 net, 5 touchdowns.
By 5 different people.
Yeah, you'd like to see more of that against Stanford, but there is a difference in the quality of the line play between Stanford and Florida Atlantic.
No doubt that there's a difference. I mean, heck, guys, I'd give our running backs the ball 60 times if we could. Heck, I don't care if we don't throw it again. I mean, our running backs are so fun to watch. Listen, I had the best seat in the house watching Kevin Smith run, and I wasn't sure that there would be ever be somebody in our backfield that could be more electric and exciting than Kevin was, truly. But when you look at how dynamic our backfield is now, with all of those guys scoring touchdowns last night, all of them able to do so many special things, I still think in my mind, we're going to be in great hands with Bentavious Thompson this year still and next year and the year after potentially. But we're going to pay a lot of attention to the quarterbacks, right? It's natural. That's what the position kind of brings with it. But it doesn't really matter who's there. I think all of our quarterbacks are good enough to do what they need to do to help us win because our running backs are going to carry this football team. There's a bunch of different ways to get them the ball. I think Coach Heupel's doing a great job game planning, really having a good pace for when these backs are coming in the game. And they're getting Adrian killing the ball in space, and I think sometimes we struggled with that last year. So quarterback's going to get a lot of attention, but I feel pretty good about whoever it is based off our skill players.
I was really excited to see Bentavious Thompson run the way that he did. I think that he's special. He's big, and I mean, last year we found Greg McCrae. Talk about Bentavious a little bit and what you saw from him.
Well, I mean, he's a punishing back, but he has the speed. He has the vision. I mean, Kevin Smith recruited Bentavious out of Miami, obviously, where it's number 24, the same number as him. Kevin always kind of bragged to me, like, wait till you see this guy that we got. He, even 2 years ago, they were saying that he was really, really special under Coach Frost's staff, and that it was hard not to allow him to play early, but they just simply didn't need to. So I think that he's a guy that, is a superstar talent that has the ability to play on Sundays. And I think throughout the course of the season, the more and more touches that he gets, Knight Nation is going to see what he has to offer. He's not as fast as maybe an Otis Anderson or an Adrian or even Greg, but he has great vision, ability to make cuts down the field, and can run with power at the same time. So he's a guy I've been really excited about the last 2 years, and I think that we're finally getting to see what he has to offer.
All right, going back to Greg McCrae, because you mentioned him there. He got the ball a little bit more this time. We didn't see him, a huge amount in the first game. He got 96 yards on 14 carries. He is still electric, and he's the one that I really love out of this entire group. Talk about him a little bit.
Well, he's even better than last year. I mean, his ability to break arm tackles yesterday. The first guys, for the most part, weren't bringing Greg down. I thought the offensive line did a much better job than they did a week ago at establishing the line of scrimmage and giving him some lanes early on in the game to get going. But Greg's also special. And, it's crazy because Greg could be starting on a number of teams across this country. A few of our guys could be. But Greg, I think, overall, from catching the ball, out of the backfield to pass blocking, to running the football and making guys miss and then having a second burst. He's obviously extremely special. It'd be these guys, if they were individuals on a team and just didn't have the depth behind them that they do, all of these guys have the potential to be 800, 900, 1,200-yard rushers on their own. So that's why I think that this unit is going to be what carries this team this year.
Do you think potentially we could have 2,000-yard rushers?
I think based on how ball games go, whether or not we're blowing people out or we're still in them, and our core, Greg and Otis or Adrian. I think Adrian's ability to make big plays puts him in contention for 1,000 yards. He'll be able to get some big chunks, and so will Greg. I think it's possible to have 2,000-yard rushers. It's going to be difficult when we're giving the ball to four guys, but I think we could have 4 600-yard guys for sure.
Yeah, we were only a couple 100 yards away last year of having two. Adrian Killens finished with like 700 and something, I think, and then McCray obviously was over the 1,000 mark. So, yeah. I mean, especially if the quarterback may be struggling or kind of like last night where they ran the ball a lot on a team where you can do that, it worked really well. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm saying struggling, but maybe not being what we're used to, I guess. And we have all those running backs, so why not? If your quarterback's having issues or learning stuff,
Or he's young.
Yeah, young.
Yeah, he's young.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just feel like the potential of the running game is huge, especially after what we saw last night.
No doubt.
A week ago, I asked you about the difference from week 1 to week 2 and whether you can see progress. I think we can all say we saw progress along the defensive line, UCF recording 5 sacks. That really is an athletic group. They fly around.
Our defense, best I've ever seen them play, or one of the best games I've seen our defense play in a very, very long time. I mean, I'm thinking way back to some of the, Conference USA defensive units that we had top 10 in the country. I mean, last night, it's just a whole different level of athleticism in our front seven, even compared to last year. We have depth at that position. We have length at that position. And we have guys that have big motors. Give Randy Shannon and this defensive coaching staff a lot of credit, because this is a much improved defensive unit. 15 or something tackle for loss, 5 sacks, an interception. I mean, we played lights out. Lane Kiffin, FAU could never get comfortable. And no matter what they did, we had an answer for it. And so I think the combination of our running game and the way that our defense played last night, we are going to be a very, very hard football team to beat. And it's frustrating when you look across the landscape of college football and, see some of these quote-unquote Power 5 programs struggling and still even, David Pollack saying yesterday that we should be on upset alert. I mean, he's got to do his job better. That's bad. That's being a bad analyst when you go out there and say those things, because our team is so absolutely deep offensively and more so now defensively than we anticipated. We can just kill you from every angle. And I think that showed last night. I think that, we beat FAU more handily than Ohio State did, in my opinion. We did it on the road. And, our defense really was probably the best part of that football game, with the way that they were able to play and disrupt just an offense that at least knows how to move the ball and put up points.
I just want to say one thing about the defensive line. We were so worried about that. That was one of our biggest things, my biggest thing going into the season. And they so far have shown that we really shouldn't have been too worried about that. And I'm not as worried as I was before, but I think we'll see a lot more this week against Stanford, and we'll know a little bit more about them after that, because it's a little bit of a different level of competition.
It is a little bit different level. I think the one thing that we are just going to be, I think what I think will make the difference is that when you see our team speed compared to Stanford, I really think that helps us a ton. USC last night was just more athletic than Stanford all around the football field, with a pretty good backup quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But I think I feel less worried about Stanford and what they're going to do across the front after last night's game than I did going into last night. And I think it'll be a great, great test. But I know one thing, Saturday afternoon, when our defense is on the field, we're going to have something to get excited about, and it's going to be super loud.
After that first game, we all felt that gut punch when Bam Moore got hurt. The team rallied around him all week. How do you feel they looked from a secondary perspective without him in the lineup?
I think we did okay. I think the defensive backs were flying all around the field. I think that we have good enough safeties to help corners. If that's something we need to do, we can play coverages to help. But I thought our corners played really well last night. Contended passes, weren't really leaving guys wide open. Obviously, FAU is going to be able to get some yards just based off play calling, as you would anticipate. But I thought that the secondary obviously benefited from the pass rush. There's no doubt about that. Robeson was not comfortable at all, ever. And so that helps the secondary. I think the combination of the two puts us in good position, to be successful and make it difficult for Stanford to put up points.
When you win big, as UCF has done the first 2 weeks, you can probably overlook kickoffs out of bounds and blocked extra points and missed field goals. Special teams is going to be a work in progress this season.
No doubt. I mean, special teams was not our strong point last night. Even some of our kickoffs that stayed in bounds at times were short, but that may have been by design. But, yeah, we got to get better in the kicking game. I've said it all along. I said it from the beginning of the season or before camp. We're going to have to be able to win a game or two with our special teams and with our kicker. That's going to be the difference at some point in time. So, although I don't know how I feel about Cincinnati anymore after last night or yesterday, but I still think that's a game where special teams and kicking is going to play a part. And so, yeah, it is a work in progress, Trace. It is not where it was last year, that's for sure.
And I'll just wrap up with this. No turnovers by the offense through 2 games. It makes it much easier to roll in a freshman quarterback when you're not turning the ball over. And, of course, the quarterback plays a big role in that.
And I thought Dylan did a good job last night of managing the game, staying poised, not really trying to force too many passes. If he was going to miss a guy, he missed where, nobody was going to be able to intercept it. And those are things that you want to see. I think because of, I think Coach Heupel alluded to it last night. And, when you have such huge chunk plays like we did, sometimes you just aren't able to get in as much of a rhythm. And, again, we haven't really seen we saw Dylan face some 3rd and longs last night, which we weren't able to convert a few of those on, but I was just glad that he got but it's still going to be a test down the road, and I don't know that this quarterback position is completely solidified with Dylan, but I feel comfortable enough with him going in as a starter at Stanford that he's going to give it a shot to win the football game.
All right, Kyle, I know you have a busy week coming up. Tell us about what's going on at the Little Greek.
Well, the Little Greek in Soto, or in Lucky's Corner, is going to be opening on Tuesday at 11 a.m., so that will take all my attention up until the game on Saturday. But if you do live or work in the South Downtown area, Orange and Pine Hawk is where that location is located. I'll be there all week. Come in and say hello. And then right behind that, we have our Winter Park location on Lakemont and Aloma. So if you haven't been to the location out by UCF, we always have a 10% discount for students and alumni over in Waterford Lakes, and we've truly appreciated the support. So going to continue to grow. This will be location number 10.
Well, I will see you on Tuesday.
Perfect.
I work,
I expected that.
Yeah. All right. I've been looking forward to it. I was out driving around looking for something to eat the other day from work, and I texted you, are you open yet? Are you open yet? So, all right, man, I've been looking forward to it. I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to what should be an exciting football game, at least an exciting environment when we bring Stanford to town. There was a point in time 10, 15 years ago that wasn't a reality, so I'm pretty excited to see this.
All right, always good to hear from Kyle. Game notes are released typically when we're recording, so it's difficult to parse them. However, an interesting note, as the notes are released for the Saturday game with Stanford, is that the quarterbacks are now listed with an or, Dylan Gabriel or Brandon Wimbush in this week's depth chart, and Gabriel's listed before Wimbush, which may just simply be alphabetical order.
But it wasn't alphabetically before. It was Brandon Wimbush or Dylan Gabriel in the past.
That's true.
Very interesting.
So I don't know that it means anything.
Any other notes that you saw in there?
No, that's
different?
the main one that, as we've been spending a great deal of time talking about quarterbacks, I don't know that it means anything. Monday, Coach Heupel will be asked about it. Monday, Coach Heupel will not say anything revealing about it. He will get asked again on Thursday about it, and I don't know who is starting against Stanford.
All right. Well, Knights in the pros. Jemias Pittman back with the Dolphins, signed to the Finns practice squad. They could probably use him on the actual squad because I heard that they didn't do very good.
59-10, they lost their home opener
to
Baltimore.
Yeah. Matt Prater kicked a 55-yard field goal to tie Arizona. Maybe that wasn't to tie them, but it was involved in the tie. 27-27 Arizona. Perryman for the Bucks that lost 2 catches for 10 yards. And the Saints in Houston play Monday. We've got like 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys in that. And then Shaquem Griffin was on special teams today, and he had an assist on a tackle. And Shaquille Griffin, 3 tackles, 2 passes defended. They're not throwing at Shaquille, obviously. They threw on the other side against Flowers, I guess. So our guys are out there playing. We just need to get more stats on them.
Houston at New Orleans, there's some guys to watch
on
Monday
absolutely.
Night Football.
Yeah, Monday Night Football got, like I said, 3 or 4 guys, maybe even more. So
pre-game in New England, as the Steelers are at the Patriots on Sunday night, one Taco Fall escorted out onto the field to be recognized.
They're parading the 7'6" guy around.
And where was he on Friday? He was at UCF volleyball.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Coach Dawkins was in the stands, and
must have his own private jet or something by now.
Men's and women's basketball players. I love when the athletes go to support
they
their
come
fellow
back
athletes.
to do it even. That's awesome.
The women's soccer players were behind the net at the men's soccer match on Friday, so I like how they all support one another. Another leftover kudos on episode 200 from our friends over at the Sons of UCF. Congrats on 200, fellas. A lot of work goes into putting a show on the air, let alone 200 of them. Boy, don't you know.
It's true.
Much respect to the OGs of the UCF podcast game.
All right.
That's from at Sons of UCF. Give them a follow if you haven't already.
Absolutely, yeah.
We are talking 40 years of UCF football with Jeff Allen's interview, and we open the Ask Knightline inbox. That when Knightline number 201 continues.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, the Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what the Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out the Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You'll also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company, where the Knightline sports crew will be broadcasting live after the game. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, oviedobrewingco.com.
All right, Knightline's celebration of the 40th anniversary of UCF football continues now with Jeff Allen's conversation with Hillary Arena, student manager on that first team, who's coordinating an upcoming reunion. Here's Jeff.
Hillary, thank you for taking the time to join us to talk about the first football team at UCF in 1979. So if you would, tell us how you ended up being a student manager for that very first football team.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Actually, I was a student at the then Florida Technological University, FTU, and Dr. Trevor Colburn had just made the announcement at the end of 1978 that UCF was going to be formed out of what used to be FTU. Mm-hmm. And as part of his vision, he wanted to start a football team for the university. So having been involved in several other sports at the university, I met Coach Don Jonas, and from there we proceeded on with the first season.
So what other sports were you involved in? Were you participating, or were you also a manager in other sports?
Actually a manager in other sports, the wrestlerette for the wrestling team, baseball, and basketball, and then I played intramural sports, but I was not a student athlete for the university.
Okay, so then the football team gets into shape and gets started for that football season. How many managers were there on the team?
There were 10 of us to start, 10 female managers. Actually, Coach Jonas started recruiting us in early 79 after the name change took effect, and UCF actually became a shelter for Hurricane David that year, where they housed some Patrick Air Force Base employees that came over. UCF served as a shelter for them, and Coach Jonas and the newly administrative staff recruited us as we worked providing food and other activities for the evacuees at UCF's campus.
And as a manager for the football team, tell us a little bit about the things that you guys did to help the team out.
Actually, we started as administrators. We helped out with secretarial duties. We assisted in public relations for the new upcoming football team and the program. But we also maintained the football equipment, helped out during the games. We prepped the locker rooms because, as you know, there were no uniforms to start and no stadium and no lockers, and we utilized the Tangerine Bowl for the first games that first year. So we basically assisted the coaches in their administrative duties and helped to maintain the equipment, setting up the locker rooms, etc.
And what kind of duties did you have on a game day?
On a game day, I had a really important duty. Besides assisting on the sidelines, I used to lace up the shoulder pads that would break. A long time ago, the equipment was a little different, so I would lace up the shoulder pads as they would get knocked off the players. I ran for the tee after kickoff onto the field. Somebody had to retrieve the tee, and then we also gave water breaks during the timeouts for the players and coaches as well.
And from the memories of those first teams, what stands out to you most importantly during that time?
Well, I think it was probably the excitement. UCF was known, of course, for its basketball, and it had All-Americans and athletes from all over. But football was kind of what ignited the Orlando community, and I think rallied around not only the name change from FTU to UCF, but it was just the excitement of what football did for the university, kind of like brought us to that next level, and how it kind of moved us from a commuter campus to something of a tradition, something that you could follow with the football team.
And as you worked with many of the players, I mean, now I've asked a lot of them, what their memories are of certain plays that stand out. Now, you probably don't get to see a whole lot of the game as much as you're working, but are there any events during the seasons that you worked that stand out to you in particular?
Well, of course, the first game stands out. That was our game at St. Leo. That was the first ever game we played. Mm-hmm. And about 300 students and faculty traveled over to St. Leo for that game. So it was just really exciting to see how all the practices and everything came together, and how the team played in that first game. I guess the only other one that would stand out, of course, was an away game on the road, and it was one of the 2 losses that UCF suffered that first season. We did go 6-2. But every time the other team scored a touchdown, the opponent, they shot off this big cannon. And unfortunately, that was the game we lost, like 48-0. So we just remember this cannon going off every time the opponent scored. So not a good memory, but that's kind of sticks out as well.
And, I recall that there's a lot of characters that were on this football team. Anybody in particular stand out?
Oh, my gosh. It was 200 of them, I think, that showed up for tryouts on that first day in that lot filled with sand spurs, and there were no, uniforms and no pads and nothing. But I think I know they came from a variety of backgrounds, but Mike O'Shaughnessy was one that sticks out. Scrappy, local kid that came out. They had a lot of high school kids coming out. They had bartenders that showing up. I mean, it was just such this diverse group of people, more or less what I call a cast of unknowns. Mm-hmm. You just had your your high school stats behind you. Some of them were just walk-ons. Who else? There were so many of them, and then it got whittled down to there were actually about 80 on the first team, from about that 200. Bugsy Engelberg was a coach that stood out under Johnson. He was quite a character on the field. He was something, and a coach that I think most of them found endearing. Of course, Mike Cullison, the first quarterback. Bob Ross, wide receiver. You could go on. Mike Staff, as we know, some that went on to be All-Americans, but I think they stand out quite a bit.
Yeah, so back during that time, I've asked all the players that we've had on this question as well. Did you really foresee where we are today back when all this was getting started?
No, not really. Like I said, it was a new program. It was a spark in the community. It was the next thing to propel UCF forward. I guess in the back of your mind, football is big. Football means a lot to a university. But I think when we were back in the day, it was just the excitement and getting a team and watching the community and the students of the university just kind of wrap their arms around football as a whole. But I don't think any of us could have ever envisioned 40 years ago stepping out onto that field and being where we are today.
And let's talk about where we are today. Do you look at this and imagine, can you imagine having all the tools that they have now that you could have had back then when you were a manager?
Oh my gosh. Times they are a-changing, and boy, it is definitely different today. I mean, from an on-campus stadium, to high-tech plays, to coaching staff, to the caliber of the players. I mean, and after all these years, we've got scholar athletes and letter firemen and All-Americans and, Hall of Famers and NFL stars, things like that. So I think it's come a long way from 40 years ago.
And you are still wearing your manager hat as you are working behind the scenes on the 40th reunion of the football team. Tell us a little bit about how that's going.
That has been quite exciting. As you know, it's 40 years of UCF football, and UCF is going to be honoring the 1979 football team coaches and managers at the UConn game on Saturday, September 28th. So I have been busy working with UCF to track down those players and coaches from that first team. And they've got several exciting events that are happening. We are going to be honored at halftime on the field with a special presentation. They've got a special luncheon, and there's a weight room tour and practice with the current staff and meeting the coaches. So I think it's something that a lot of those players are going to look forward to because, like you said, a lot has changed over 40 years. So we're very excited and really happy that the university is basically honoring that first team that, started the momentum that moved it to where it is today.
And how tough your job would have been before the internet to try to get all this together, right?
Oh, boy, yeah, before cell phones and before the internet and before Facebook and all these other things, we'd probably be doing snail mail and trying to contact people's high schools and look them up through this. But it's obviously the technology is there. And or I should say, UCF has kept some good records over the years, especially with their sports and athletes. So a lot of them are still season ticket holders. A lot of these people started at the beginning and still continue to this day. So we've been able to track them, or we see them at every game anyway. And then everybody knows everybody, and you just kind of track them down. But certainly the technology is easier now than it would have been even 10 years ago.
All right, so how many from the first team do we anticipate being there for the reunion?
There are a total of about 90, 80, and about 10 coaches. We have every coach besides the two that are deceased that will be joining us, and we have approximately 59 of the 80 people, several others deceased. So we have a good 2/3 of that team going to be with us on the field on the 28th.
Well, that is awesome, and a good job by you, and lots of hard work getting all that together. And we certainly look forward to that coming up with the 40th anniversary of UCF's football team. Hillary Arena, manager from that first team, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff. Enjoyed it, and charge on.
In case you missed that was Charge On. She's enthusiastic. Taking a look at your Knightline planner for the week. Women's golf is at the Cougar Classic in Charleston, South Carolina, the 9th and 10th. Women's soccer welcomes Arizona State, 6 p.m. on the 12th at the UCF Soccer and Track Complex. Volleyball hits the road 13th and 14th at the Redbird Classic against Marquette, Illinois, and Illinois State. Men's soccer welcomes Virginia Commonwealth on the 14th, 7 p.m. first kick at the Soccer and Track Complex. Cross country heads to Gainesville for a meet on the 14th, and women's soccer welcomes Stetson on the 15th at 6 at home.
That sounds like a fun time, the Cougar Classic. Oh, wait, that's a different Cougar Classic.
Completely different event.
Sorry.
Different event, different show. All right, so a shout out to Clay from Facebook who sent us a message this week. Great content. Thanks.
Oh, hey.
All about hashtag content.
Yeah.
And you remember last week we gave a shout out to @me and Angus, who thanked us for the shout out to his kids on the show. And he said that they loved it. So
you know what? I got something to say here as well about this.
Yeah.
Thank you to me and Angus, by the way. I think that it was him that sent me or us a donation from our website. So you can go to our website. There is a donation button. We will take all the donations that you can possibly give us to do this show. We can do better stuff and maybe fix post-game live and all kinds of stuff. If if you have an extra $1 or $2 in your pocket, it can be any amount. There is a donation button on our website. Anyway, I think it was him. I'm pretty sure. I sometimes get real people's names confused with their handles on Twitter, but I believe that it was him. So I appreciate that, and I would appreciate anybody that would do that,
including Marie and Mason.
Yeah, exactly.
The kids.
Yeah,
feel
Marie,
free. Your
Mason,
allowance.
You've got some allowance. Exactly. I mean, anytime, $1, 50 cents, we'll take it.
Click on KnightlineSports.com,
and there is a donation button.
We're just sort of kidding. Does the 2019 UCF football team have the best running back core in program history? That is a question in our Ask Knightline inbox. Knightline 201. Back in a flash.
Coming up on this week's AAC report only on the Knightline Sports Network, we'll look back at Week 2 action involving conference teams. Cincinnati got rocked by the Ohio State Buckeyes. Not so much a surprise that they lost, but in the method in which they lost, shut out 42-0. Memphis off to a 2-0 start, 55-24 winners over Southern. The Cows fall at 0-2, losing to Georgia Tech 14-10, and SMU is a 2-0 starter as they beat North Texas in a revenge game from last season, 49-27. All of the Week 2 action, plus a look at the Week 3 games ahead, including our Spotlight game, where Temple will host a 2-0 Maryland team. I'm Jeff Allen. Be sure to join me on this week's AAC report only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Hey Night Nation, it's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to two guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today.
All right, time again for Ask Knightline. We answer your questions, or try to, that you send to us on Facebook or on Twitter at hashtag Ask Knightline. We'll begin with Raphael on Facebook. A couple of questions. He's choosing the Manny Amora's exemption there with two questions. Last week, FAU lost to Ohio State. This week, UCF beat FAU by a bigger margin. How would UCF do against Ohio State? I think it'd be a great game.
Yeah, they would play them better than FAU did. I can tell you that.
I think it'd be a great game. I think it's, of course, Ohio State doesn't lose very much up in the shoe, so that'd be a tough game. And I'd love to see Ohio State. Never see it, but I'd love to see them play in Orlando.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think we could give them a run for their money. I think we could probably win, to be honest with you.
And if you haven't, look at the two box scores. I mean, it's fairly similar.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting. Raphael's second question asked about Alabama's 62-10 blowout of New Mexico State and the quality of their opponents. Nick Saban responded, quote, "We're playing the best teams we can get to play us." I can't even say it with a straight face.
Yeah.
We're getting the best teams we can to get to play us. Why don't you start calling around and see if you can get somebody else to play us, and we'll play them. We'll play anybody you can get us to get to play us. So his question, Raphael's question, does this mean UCF will soon put Alabama on the schedule?
Yeah, right.
What a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
He says it with a straight face in his postgame yesterday.
That's ridiculous.
Straight face.
Ridiculous.
Nonsense. We know better.
Yeah.
And Danny White has really helped expose that.
I love that fact.
So I wove in some comments because right after the game I posted on Twitter, what'd you think? So it wasn't so much a question, but I thought I'd weave some of these in.
Okay.
At T. Langerholk, can't complain much, but overall, we don't seem as UCF fast. I think that may have been a bit by design, too.
Yeah.
against FAU.
They were trying to run down the clock at one point just to get it over with.
What do you think about a running clock when you're up by a certain amount in the fourth quarter? Because these games, for UCF...
3:42 yesterday.
Is that what it was?
Like that, yeah.
I was just about to look that up.
I think it was 3:42. And then how long did... I actually left when the lightning delay was happening.
That they ended it very quickly.
Did they?
They just bagged that, and they said, yeah, we're not doing it.
With... 3 minutes left or something like that. I saw FAU fans complaining that they ended it early.
3:45
should be like a run rule or something, at some point.
If you're up by a certain amount, at least halfway through the fourth quarter, just start
running the clock. Yeah,
I would say so. At Golden Knight _ the second, would you say this is the best running back core we've ever had?
Well, I mean, Kyle was discussing Kevin Smith, and then in the same breath, he was talking about the running back group that we have, not any one of them individually being as good, but he was saying as a group, just as good. So
none of these guys are going to get 30, 40 carries like Kevin Smith did.
Right.
That's not the era we're in with these running backs. But I mean,
not when you have 5 good running backs or 4 good running backs, whatever.
AK, McRae, Otis, Bentavi. I mean,
I think
all
it's the best
so
group
good.
we've ever had. I mean, I can't think of any better one.
With a program that is 40 years old, you can look at certain eras. This is the best talent.
A couple of those guys could start on a lot of other NCAA teams. So, I mean, you could see Anderson and Killens starting, someplace else. So why not?
Michael on Facebook, going in a completely different direction is Michael on Facebook. Do you notice in every Heupel interview since he's been here, he has an annoying coughing episode? Is that a nervous cough, or is there a medical reason he should have that checked out by a doctor? He does always sound hoarse and sickly like that.
I think, though, because I listen to all of these interviews and stuff like that, as you guys well know, bothers me a lot, like coughs and and all this other, and where they're standing and, the relation with the moon and the sun of where they're standing. Anyway, I believe, yes, that it is a nervous thing because although I've talked to him, face to face, and he didn't do it, so he wasn't nervous talking to me. But I think, at the podium, he just may do that. I mean, I know that he probably screams and yells a lot, and when you do that, your throat gets dry.
Think about when the media sees him.
Yeah,
they see him after practice,
and
after a game.
Yeah, so maybe he's a smoker. You never know.
No,
you never know.
No,
never know.
I don't think so. I think we'd know that by now.
Never know.
No. At Brando Nitro,
he's a closet smoker.
A Quadri 4 of 4, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his career at UCF. Career passer rating 517. Greatest UCF quarterback of all time?
Well, I guess if you look at it like that.
By the way, if you follow Quadri and other players on Twitter, be respectful, of course, but at Quadri Jones earlier in the week said, "Just don't forget about me!" Exclamation point. Yeah. Maybe he knew he would be seeing some snaps at FAU.
Well, we don't forget about him. Absolutely, he's perfect.
He won't let you. He just goes out.
He's the perfect quarterback. Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I'm just like
he almost had a touchdown the other day. I mean, with being perfect on those. So
our friend Ben Stout. So you saw Ben?
Yeah, I saw Ben
Saturday.
All 7'3" of him.
Yeah,
or whatever it is. He's very tall.
At Big
Every
Social,
time I see him, I think he's very tall.
32, putting you in a tough position, but I know you guys can handle it. If you were an AP voter, where would you honestly have UCF ranked nationally after week 2? I will say
number 1, of course.
My qualifier is I think there should be 4 weeks played before any polls. Of course, the media wants the fodder of preseason polls. So
how about Nebraska being in the top 25?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Blew a 17-0 lead on the road to Colorado, by the way.
That's beautiful.
Defensive coordinator, Nebraska?
Who?
Eric Chinender.
Shocking.
Yeah. So my qualifier for this is I don't think there should be any polls for the first 4 weeks because you see schools being rewarded for playing against each other, and maybe they shouldn't have been ranked at all.
Yeah.
Right? Syracuse gave up 63 points at Maryland. They were ranked 21st. They beat Liberty in their first game 24-0.
Right.
They should not have been ranked. So if you had waited a couple of weeks, now Syracuse may do something in the next 2 games that might earn them a spot in the top 25 in week 5. So I think that's, I'm not trying to duck Ben's question, but these are false premise on some of the way these teams are playing each other. Michigan falls 3 spots,
almost
barely beating,
barely
beating Army.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida went up 2 spots, beating UT Martin. Somehow UCF loses a spot, beating FAMU 62-0.
Right.
And Florida climbs 2 spots, beating UT Martin 45-0.
It's pure bias. These polls are pure bias.
Texas A&M fell from 12 to 16, and they're 1 ahead of UCF in the AP Top 25. So, it's hard for me to answer that question because some of this is brand name. And here's the other thing that's wrong with this: I didn't watch the games. I didn't get to watch LSU Texas because I was at the UCF game. So these coaches aren't watching these games.
Yeah.
And these media members, I'm in the press box. I'm sitting next to the Orlando Sentinel beat reporter. We're both watching Texas LSU just from the score ticker. We're not watching the game. So how can I evaluate, or he evaluate, if he's a voter?
Right.
How is Scott Frost, he's a voter, evaluating games that are head-to-head when he's on the field for Nebraska?
Well,
nonsense. It's all nonsense.
It is all nonsense, and the polls are nonsense. Unfortunately, they run how this thing winds up in the end.
And some of these guys, like Brett McMurphy of Stadium,
won't even put us in there that should.
And he can offer explanations for why he will or won't, and that's his business, and that's fine. But I think he likes he's on an obscure network that people don't get, or a website that people don't see. I mean, he's a bit of a name in the business, but he's on something that nobody sees. And this is a way for him to rile people up, and our fan base certainly gets riled up about him.
Yep.
So, sorry, Ben, I didn't
for
exactly
clicks. Going for clicks.
Answer your question. We may have already answered at J.A. Hadaway's FAU crowd management was horrible from your vantage points. Can you share any explanation for why things were so bad? I mean, I think it boils down from all of our experience, work and otherwise, proper planning, proper staffing.
They weren't ready for Night Nation, period.
They were, the training, just the whole, and again, I looked it
horrible.
up. They opened that stadium in 2011. Now, all those people weren't there.
That was their record crowd, though, supposedly. So they've never seen anything like Night Nation.
If you average 15,000 and you need 100 of these people, and you're going to have 30, then you need 200 of them. If you get 15,000 through 2 gates, maybe we need to open 4 or 5.
Yep.
I mean,
and ditch the metal detectors. We don't have that in our stadium. That was what slowed it all down. It was horrible.
Well, but that's the wave of the future. Is more of the
but they need to figure out a better way. TSA does it pretty good.
At MD Night 2016, Wild Gumby needs to be used more often. Amen.
Yeah.
I love Otis Anderson.
I do. The only problem with that is he takes all those running backs take carries away from other running backs. That's the only problem that I have with it. And I love to see us have a 1,000-yard rusher at the end of the season, or 2, like I was saying with Kyle. With so many guys, though, that may be difficult. So I mean, it's nothing against Otis Anderson, nothing against him. I want somebody to be a 1,000-yard rusher, if not 2.
Let me combine a couple of questions here, these next 2. At Mr. D. Benoit, who I saw from a comment on Twitter Saturday, said something about, I guess you guys are happy Dylan's getting the start. Now, remember, I'm very neutral in this. You've been a little bit more pro Dylan. I want the best players that
I want
get
the best
wins.
player, obviously, and I just don't feel like the best player is Brandon Wimbush.
But I'm 100% supportive of whoever's on the field.
Do you think the best player is still Brandon Wimbush?
If Brandon Wimbush comes out against Stanford, I'm behind Brandon Wimbush.
Do you think that he's the best player?
I don't think there is one perfect player. I think they each have skills.
No.
I think there are things that Brandon can do with
There's always somebody that's better than other players, though. There's always a better player than the other. Always.
I think he can do different things than Dylan.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
but anyway,
at
Mr. D. Benoit's question, and let me combine it with that UCF
All right,
_
Josh
national.
Heupel, and your answer.
His question, what do you think will be our biggest challenge for the Stanford game, and how do you think we overcome it? And at UCF _ national, how will our defense look against Stanford? Who will start at quarterback? So just trying to bring all those Stanford-related questions out at the same time.
Dylan Gabriel.
Starter, how will the defense look against Stanford? And this to me goes
it's gonna
with the
be
biggest
more
challenge.
of a test, yeah.
Is the lines, the play along the lines.
Yeah.
They looked better on both sides because week to week, FAU stronger team than FAMU, but I thought they looked more cohesive. They're going to have a different test. I think the biggest advantage for UCF is being at home and it being hot and the speed. They're going to have to diversify. If it is Dylan, they're going to have to do some different things in the passing game. He just can't launch a deep ball all the time. They got to hit a little bit shorter stuff and some slants. I mean,
you're not going to do it. You're not going to do that with Brandon Wimbush.
No.
So, I mean, he's more viable to do that than Brandon Wimbush is.
So Josh Heupel is now 14-1 as head coach. The only loss in the bowl by 8 points without KZ.
I think he knows what he's doing.
So, the Sons of UCF said it this week. Until he gives a reason otherwise, they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
And we'll see what the game planning is. They're certainly going to study Stanford, and these are going to be the questions that go all week long.
Absolutely.
We'll end with at my checkmark PLE1. Checkmark, please. All right. I'm tired of who will start at quarterback. All this talk.
This is the one I was talking about earlier.
Let's bring back hard-hitting questions, is UCF in the P5 yet? Ask us these things about you're on an island.
He hasn't asked us a crazy question in a while. Come on, where are you at, UCF in the P5 yet?
I think he responded to something on Twitter when I said, what's on your mind? And he said, hash browns. I think was the answer to that question.
Send us a good question for next week.
But at my checkmark, please, one is, what's in your cargo shorts? Which sounds like that commercial. What's in your wallet?
Well, I mean, there's...
Okay, left
I'm
pocket,
not
right
talking
pocket.
about what's in my cargo shorts. That would be unprofessional on, whatever.
Suddenly it's a different show again.
There's kids listening. I got my wallet. That's all that... Yeah, that my wallet...
No, typically.
Well, you know what?
Are you a back wallet in the back pocket?
Yes. Yeah. Normally, I'm not going to tell which pocket, but
I was going to ask which pocket.
It's in my right hand pocket normally.
Keys?
I don't really. I put my keys on my belt loop most of the time because I have a carabiner on my keys.
Phone
is on. I have one of those little clips. I have the OtterBox, so I have the clip. It's not in my pocket, but what is normally always in my pocket is
a lot of pockets that you're not using.
Yeah,
is what
I'm wearing
here.
cargo shorts here. I almost always have my AirPods in my pocket because you can put it in to listen to something real quick on, or on the phone. You throw one of them in your ear and you got a wireless, hands-free phone. That is almost always, it's the biggest thing that is always in my pockets. AirPods. The best headphones ever made, personally. If you don't have some, even if you have an Android, get some AirPods. They're the best headphones ever.
All right, so I have two phones, work phone, personal phone, left pocket, keys, wallet, right pocket. I do not sit on my wallet. I do not clip my phone. I do not clip my keys. Okay. No clips on the belt.
I like clips because it leaves your hands free.
But I have not been wearing cargo shorts lately. So...
Well,
I kind of got shamed on that last year.
I don't care. I mean, because I always have. I wear glasses, and I have prescription sunglasses, so I have those in one of my cargo short pockets a lot. Either one of the pairs of glasses, because you go to a football game and it's light at one point and it gets dark. You got to have both sets of your glasses. So. That's another good reason for cargo pants. And normally during tailgating, I have a beer in one of my pockets, one of my cargo pockets. Absolutely. Or a bottle of water. Going into the game, there's always almost a bottle of water.
Sometimes cold.
Yeah, sometimes cold for sure.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Lots of questions. We try to get to as many of them as we can every week. Send them to us on hashtag Ask Knightline at our Facebook page or at our Twitter page at UCF_Knightline.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports.
All right, let's begin with men's soccer. Number 15th in the United Soccer Coaches Poll, up to number 11 in the Top Drawer Soccer Top 25. Sunday, double overtime again. Yanni Sorokin with the game-winning PK, 3-2 over Texas Rio Grande Valley. UCF and Penn State drew 2-2 Friday. UCF 2-1-1 on the season, but back-to-back double overtimes. Meantime, redshirt freshman Gianluca Arcangeli, the Americans' Offensive Player of the Week.
That was good. Easier said than written, I guess. All right, volleyball swept Kansas Sunday.
Kansas?
Yeah. I hate to report on these things. Everybody's sweeping Kansas in all the sports. It's horrible. The Knights beat South Carolina and Albany over the weekend as well. They are 5-1 in volleyball.
Your Chefs won.
Yeah.
Chefs won.
Yep,
at Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
By the way,
tore them up.
We didn't talk about this, but did you like UCF's road unis? Did they seem a little Raiders-esque to you? Did that?
I hate the Raiders. I don't even want to think about that.
But did you like the road uni?
I liked it. Yeah.
Women's soccer. How about this one? They beat Florida in Gainesville 2-0 Sunday. That's huge.
That's awesome.
Always good to beat the Gators in anything. UCF 1-1-2 on the young season.
Men's golf tied for third at the Island Resort Collegiate Invitational in Michigan.
Cross country, freshman Jamie Tomasetti, Americans Runner of the Week.
All right. The Runner of the Week. I didn't know they had that. Anyway, and finally, good luck to a pair of men's basketball alums. Forward Chad Brown will play in the NBA G League International Challenge in Uruguay. And Dayon Griffin inks a professional deal with the All-On I don't know if I've said that right. It's some UAE thing. They're a professional basketball team that plays in the UAE National Basketball League, the top pro league in the United Arab Emirates.
Extending his career.
I guess they like basketball over there as well.
He'll take that payday any day.
Absolutely. All right, this has been Knightline 201. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold, charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. B-S-E-T-O-R-Y. Tonight our Knights will shine. UCF, Knights. UCF, let's go Knights. UCF, charge on to the field.